Morning's Forgetful One, by Dr. Yunus Javed. While walking from home to school, a sudden thought crossed Hamid's mind. Why not take the day off today? He could roam the streets all day, visit the garden, catch butterflies, and sit under the trees enjoying the cool shade and delightful stories. Perhaps this idea came to him because the sky was covered with bright white clouds. It was the beginning of summer, and as soon as Hamid stepped outside, a cool and pleasant breeze filled his chest. That was when he postponed his plan of going to school. How would anyone at home find out? He thought, I'll return home at the same time I do every day after school. Pushing this thought firmly into his mind, Hamid turned away from the school route and stepped onto another road. This road led to a garden. Right next to the garden was a zoo where peacocks, swans, lions, leopards, bears, deer, and other animals lived. But Hamid decided to visit the garden first. Walking briskly, he entered the garden. To his surprise, there was no crowd or liveliness there. He had assumed that many boys like him would have skipped school, but there was no one except the gardeners. Lost in thought, he climbed a small hill and sat down on a beautiful bench placed in a corner. By the time he reached there, he felt tired and still hadn't enjoyed himself properly. He placed his school bag on the ground and was about to lie down on the bench when he noticed 2 or 3 colorful butterflies. His heart filled with joy. How beautiful they are! The butterflies fluttered from one place to another. Whenever Hamid moved closer, they flew farther away. Chasing them, he reached the other side of the hill. There, 3 or 4 butterflies were sitting together. He threw his handkerchief and caught 2 of them, tying them inside it. The rest flew downward, and after a lot of effort, he managed to catch 1 more. Feeling exhausted, he put the butterfly in his pocket and went to retrieve the handkerchief he had left under a tree. To his disappointment, one of the 2 butterflies had escaped. Helplessly, he tied the remaining butterfly again and began searching for his school bag. The bench was right in front of him. He ran toward it, but the bag was not underneath. He was shocked. Wherever he looked, he saw people, but his bag was nowhere to be found. Perhaps he had forgotten under which bench he had placed it. For nearly an hour, he wandered around desperately. He was thirsty too. Slowly, he began walking down the hill. There was another bench ahead. Under it lay his yellow school bag. He rushed forward and stretched out his hand to grab it when he screamed in fear. A wild cat was sleeping there. It growled and jumped suddenly. Hamid slipped while running down the hill. His heart was pounding. As he stood there in despair, a frog suddenly jumped near his feet. He wasn't afraid of frogs, but the sudden movement startled him. Then it occurred to him that there could be snakes here too. The moment this thought crossed his mind, he imagined black and yellow snakes crawling before him. He shut his eyes tightly for a minute, gathered courage, and hurried down the hill. Reaching the road, he felt a burden lift from his heart. Just as he was about to move on, he realized his bag was still up on the hill. This made him sad. He didn't have the strength to climb again. Without thinking, he started walking along the road. With every step, his feet felt heavier. How can I go home without my bag? Everything would be exposed. No one would trust him again. Schoolmates would call him a loafer, and the teacher would label him among useless students. Oh, why didn't I go to school? Soon the zoo fence began. It wasn't a wall, but a wire fence through which many animals were visible. Hamid stood there watching a deer grazing. To the right, swans were swimming in a small pond, and from afar came the roar of a lion. For a moment, he forgot about his bag. Other people were standing nearby, watching and feeding animals. Suddenly, he spotted Tahir, his cousin, 2 years older than him. Hamid thought that if Tahir helped him, they could search for the bag together. He called out, but Tahir didn't hear and walked away toward the monkeys. Hamid felt restless. He saw a way to retrieve the bag, but entering the zoo required a ticket, and he only had 10 pesos. Suddenly, an idea struck him. Part of the fence was broken. Looking around, he stepped forward, intending to jump inside, but stopped when passers-by approached. Once they left, he gathered courage and slipped through the broken fence. He made it inside, but a nail caught his shirt badly. Despite trying, he couldn't free it. With one strong jerk, the shirt tore from top to bottom. As he stared at his torn shirt, a uniformed zoo guard grabbed him by the collar. Hamid tried to free himself, but failed. "Let me go!" Hamid cried. "Why should I?" the guard said. "You entered without a ticket and through the wrong way. You'll be handed over to the police." At the mention of police, the ground slipped beneath Hamid's feet. Tears welled up, and his throat went dry. The guard dragged him to the office. There sat a large, dark-skinned man with thick mustaches. Hamid felt scared, but the man turned out to be kind. He listened to Hamid's story and then said gently, "Your punishment will be light. You'll stay in this small room until evening." Hamid was locked in a dark room. He felt suffocated and burst into tears, wishing he hadn't skipped school. After a while, the officer released him on the condition that he would never run away from school again. Hamid promised. A peon escorted him to the zoo gate. He was deeply saddened. After walking some distance, he realized one of his shoes was missing. His misery deepened further. With a torn shirt, one shoe in hand, no school bag, and tears streaming down his face, Hamid entered his home in the evening. His father was sitting on the veranda reading a book. Seeing Hamid in this condition, he became angry. Hamid said nothing and began to cry. Hearing this, his mother rushed in and embraced him. Hamid told the entire truth. His father was still upset, but Hamid quickly said, "Despite everything, I learned today's lesson well." "What lesson?" his father asked, softening. "That one should never run away from school. One should never imprison butterflies, birds, or animals. And one should never enter a zoo without a ticket." Saying this, Hamid opened his handkerchief and released the 2 butterflies. They fluttered into the air and settled on a nearby tree. "Excellent," his father said with a smile. "If you learned this lesson through suffering, then you are fortunate. Your mistake is forgiven." Hamid hugged his mother joyfully. His father stood nearby, smiling.